6:51. Good morning, Guam. Hey, our Facebook Live feed. I want to shout it out to Teresa, who writes in here. Thank you, KUAM News staff, for being energetic every day, for giving us news. We love you. We love you, too. Don't be scared to say I love you guys.
I'm also got a shout out from some place that we have not heard from ever. Amelia Island in Florida. I'm not even sure where Amelia Island is. I've only ever been to like Orlando, so somewhere around it. Well, in between, assumedly, in between the Panhandle and the Keys, it's Amelia Island, like there somewhere.
Our buddy Nenny Poodles, F. Glenn Lujan. Good morning, KUAM. The Link, Sabrina, Joe, Sir, Chris, Jason, everyone working behind the scenes. Leanne Beneventi. Good morning, Guam and the CNMI. Good morning, Ani.
Good morning.
6:53. Let's head into the KUAM News Zoom room where we have the Director of the Department of Agriculture standing by, Chelsa Muna Brecht. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. I know you guys have a lot going on, so we wanted to play a little bit of catch up. Wow, you sent me a bunch of pictures. We're going to pop up here on the link. So many pictures. We have a montage. And then I did want to ask about the stray dog thing, but go ahead and if you want to just catch us up on what you guys got going on with the Department of Agriculture, because I know that we're kind of winding down from the height of that second surge, and you know it's back to work for so many people. I'm not saying you guys haven't been working, but you know what I mean, right? We're posturing and starting to do things that we may not have been doing during the height of the surge. So what's going on at Department of Ag?
We never stopped. We've been surging.
Right.
I had to write down stuff just to see if I could recall even half of the things we've been working on. I'll run through a list. You can pick and choose what you like to talk about.
Sure.
We have Guam's, or the Department of Agriculture's first ever conservation reservist program. Although the reservist program was established in 1975, this is the first time we have funding for the Department of Agriculture to have reservists. The press release should be coming out later today. We have the stray animal stuff that we've been talking about with the Mayor's Council and with GAIN. We've been chipping Christmas trees and giving people mulch for the past 2 weekends. We have a grant funding opportunity out of our Agriculture Development Services where farmers and local nonprofits will be able to apply for mini grants. I think it's one of the first times it's being done out of the department, actually. We still have the CARES Act Fisheries program. We are preparing for a critical habitat designation public hearing that NOAA is going to have. They released a proposed rule in December, right before Christmas, and they're going to be designating critical habitat areas for CNMI and Guam, American Samoa, and they weren't even planning on having a public hearing initially, but we asked for that during the Westpac Council meeting. So now we will have 2 public hearings, and it's for them to designate, or the proposed rule will designate 7 different species of coral as endangered species. We are in DAR Fisheries, we are working with several stakeholders to have our first meeting of about 32 people to begin the planning for the development of Guam's first fisheries management plan, which has never been done before. So every time people say things like we should have catch limits or size limits, that all comes from a fisheries management plan. We are working with the Department of the Navy on identifying a vendor who will help us spend the $2 million we were awarded, or technically the Department of Navy was awarded, but it was our grant with them to establish conservation areas for listed and endangered species on Guam, which basically just means we will do a lot of restoration activities, and these will be open to the public. I mean, depending on where the areas are. So it's not just for the purposes of endangered species, but it's to improve our habitat island-wide for all of us. And then we are working with the University of Guam to spend the $1 million we received for the development of a habitat conservation plan, which is also for endangered species. So it's kind of along the same lines as the REPI funding. And that's just what I remembered from last night.
I wanted to catch up on the, remember the fisherman grants with the CARES Act?
Yes.
You guys were able to, get that money out and stuff?
Yes. So funnily, and not, I guess it's not really funny, but we, we laugh at all the inappropriate things. We have over, I think it was 814 people who registered as fishers, and we announced that we were accepting applications, but to date we'd only received about 180 applications. So we sent an email to the commission, requested to amend our spend plan. We've extended the deadline till the end of January 29th. So now we're trying to do a lot more outreach. We even have people cold calling each of the registrants to have them come in and submit an application so that we can be sure to get people their money.
Right. Yeah.
So people registered, but then they never applied to get the funding.
Right.
We did have Frank Roberto on a couple weeks ago regarding the extension of the deadline. So has anything at all been paid out?
Not yet. We sent off our first batch of the 180 applications, so that should be in process right now. Hopefully people will receive money in less than 2 weeks.
Well, so this is a way for people out here to get some money, and it's not just for commercial fishermen. This is for sustenance fishermen, right?
Absolutely. We had those. That's the largest group, was 784 sustenance fishers.
Right. So, guys, if you applied for this, there's money. I mean, they're just giving it away. So, answer the phone. Maybe follow up. How do they follow up? Let's say someone applied, and then as the island started to reopen, maybe it wasn't on the top of their mind anymore. So how do they follow up on that?
There's several ways. We have people coming into the office. The doors are locked, so you kind of just ring the doorbell, wash your hands outside, come inside, and someone will talk with you. We have people answering phones, and like I said, we have 2 different people designated to cold call people who are on the list, just to let them know that they need to come in and apply. We have our fisheries@doag.guam.gov email address. We have the doag.guam.gov website, where if you click under resources, all of the application forms are there too, and you can download and fill them out. You can fill it out on your phone and then email it right back to us. You can pick up hard copies of the form. People have been calling or emailing me asking about or following up for themselves. So we all will talk to anybody who needs some sort of information about it.
Do you have a kind of a ballpark idea about what amount some of these awards could be, maybe from like the sustenance level to the commercial fishermen?
Oh, for sure.
Ballpark.
At the sustenance level, you will receive $953.68. Then there's a second tier of fishers who have some of their commercial receipts and they can demonstrate that they sell their fish. They'll receive $1,200. And then the tier above that is for anyone who is registered with GRT. They have all of their GRT receipts and tax documents that demonstrate that that's their livelihood completely or largely. They receive varying amounts based on their losses for the year. So we had people receiving anywhere from $1,000 to $13,000 to $30,000 based on how much income they can demonstrate that they've lost.
Mm-hmm. I'm just curious why it's taken so long.
Well, the first part was getting the proposal through to the commission. We did that last year. We were the first territory to get our proposal in our spend plan. Then they approved it. That kind of took a long time because it's not just us going directly to them. We have to go through the Fisheries Commission, which is who I sent it to. Then they sent it to NOAA, the Pacific Marine Fisheries, or NIMS, National Marine Fisheries section. They reviewed everything. They'd send it back to the commission, who would then send it back to me to amend certain things. Some of the edits they required were just like super minutia, where you're already kind of getting frustrated. Well, I was getting frustrated. Like, really, you want me to I have to elaborate on what that date's going to look like, or how much time we're going to spend on reviewing documents. I mean, little things like that. So it went back and forth at least 3 times before they finally approved it. And then we approved it and announced it. We had about a month for people to turn in their forms. And then at the end of that month, we realized only 100 people had even responded. So then I had to send it back to them to amend it again and announce that we wanted to extend it and include that information in there. Then they'd send it back, and even just to amend it, to amend the date, I think spent in plan version 3.
Okay, there's more amendments in the legislature.
Yeah, but like you said, hopefully the first payments will be going out within 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And really, we just want people to apply. I mean, we'll extend as many times as we need to. I want to make sure that everyone who registered gets their money.
Yeah. And again, that deadline is the 29th, as Chelsa had mentioned.
Can you send us the application on WhatsApp, and then we'll share it on our site just so it can be easier for people to get?
Absolutely.
Right. You can also request a packet by emailing fisheries@doag.guam.gov. So please take advantage of that program.
Right on. That is, if you go out there, catching fish, sustenance to feed the family. I mean, who doesn't do that? Or you sell fish on the side or whatever. This is some federal funds that it's here for the asking, really. Chelsea, I wanted to kind of follow up because I know there was a meeting yesterday at Gain with some of the mayors, and I believe it was regarding that stray dog issue. Can you? And I remember before the pandemic, there was a mayor's council meeting I went to, and I think there was a thing Senator Rigel was kind of trying to work on. I don't know whatever came of it, but just obviously mayor's struggling with the stray dog issue. And I think I heard at that meeting that there was something like, 60,000 stray. Is this just dogs, or are we including chickens and cats?
If we were including chickens and cats, I think we'd be somewhere around the million mark.
So
No, actually, Cyrus kind of clarified that yesterday. So their numbers are based off of the last population count, which I think was done around 2012, he had said. So extrapolating that number, they conclude that there are about 60,000 dogs or pets on Guam, and about somewhere upwards of 30,000 of those are strays. So I think that maybe refines the number a little bit more for us. Right. But we actually had a really fantastic meeting, and I have to give a lot of credit to Mayor Rudy Paco from Mongmong Tatu Maiti, because he led his group from the Mayor's Council, the Stray Animal Roundup Committee, and everyone came to the table. So it wasn't just the mayor and I talking about things. There were about 7 other mayors there, and then Gain and us, and we discussed and put everything kind of out on the table. It wasn't just saying nice things to say nice things and what we think could happen. But we sat there together till we came up with a plan and we can't just wait for the grant funding that we're applying for to come. So what can we do in the meantime? And this is not I don't want to try and take credit for any of this. I mean, Mayor Paco brought us to the table and we hashed out a plan that we want to do just as a trial run until we get funding that'll allow us to expand and have a larger stray animal roundup where we spay, neuter, and euthanize animals. But we're going to pilot a project in Santa Rita. The mayors are going to get together and do a lot of, remodeling and fixing up work at Gain so they can increase the number of kennels that are available. Right now, Gain has, I think, about 30 functioning kennels, 17 of which can be used for strays. So that's really not a lot. And when people bring in strays, that already occupies a kennel. So then there's no space for the mayors. So there are entire 2, I think, tracks of kennels at Gain that are not being used for reasons like it needs either more fencing, or there's a hole, or there's an opening at the top and the dogs are climbing out. So the mayor showed up at Gain and we took a look at everything that needed to be fixed, and they stood there and decided, what materials are needed, and how many staff are needed, and they're going to try and get at least 1 staff member from each village to come up, and they'll start fixing up the kennels at Gain. And I think it's proactive. So
so what is the plan going to be to round up those strays in Santa Rita?
we're looking at within the next week to hopefully just next week. The mayors are going to up again I think Thursday, to cut grass and fix the fences, and then we're trying to get the animal volunteers at Gain vaccinated, so that, because when we do the community outreach, we want to go into Santa Rita and microchip all of the dogs that are people's pets, so that we don't end up seizing them and then have to hold them for 10 days, and then people come in and say, we killed their pet or we took their pet. And rather than having Santa Rita residents try to come all the way up to Jigo to turn in animals, we want to just take it to them, or to bring up animals to get microchipped. So the plan is that we'll go into the village, do outreach, microchip any of the dogs or strays that are not actually strays but people's pets. And then the following week when we come in, we're going to have our animal control officer lead a group of mayor's council staff who will be assisting, and the mayors will bring their kennels too, because rather than waiting for us to be able to buy more kennels for the department, they all have their kennels. Let's bring all of our, it's kind of like a big potluck of kennels and traps, and catch the dogs and then take them up to Gain where they'll have spaces waiting.
We're going to put this application form for the fishermen's relief.
It's missing one page. Okay. There's one more page to it. So there's 3 pages. I'm trying to download the other one.
We'll put that up in the comments, Jay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Chelsa, we got it up on screen now just so people can see like what they have to fill out and everything. So we got you covered.
Okay.
Is there a limit on how many strays Gain can take?
Right now there is, because of the space that they have available, and it varies every day, because we said, when we were talking with Alice, she said at least 80% of the animals that are brought in are from private residents. So then when a mayor has 10 dogs that they've caught, Gain can sometimes take 1 or 2, and then they have to send the rest back. So the kennels that the mayors are fixing will be dedicated specifically for this roundup.
So, Chelsa, we go to Santa Rita, we round up the dogs, take whichever one's up to Gain, put the other ones in the kennels. What's the timeline from when we round them up to allow people? Did you say 10 days?
Well, you have 10 days if the animal has a tag or a license, or they believe it belongs to someone. But if not, then it has 3 days before it can be euthanized or put out for adoption. If it's a completely feral dog, it's aggressive, it's going to start harming itself because it's never been caged or tied up or anything, and now all of a sudden it's in a cage. I mean, we saw that, those really hard fences, the metal had been bent in certain spots or stretched because of the dogs climbing out of the fences. And I mean, it's a wild animal trying to gain its freedom, so it just tore through some of those materials. And I guess when they do that, they really hurt themselves, or they'll try and fit through certain holes. So then those are the animals that'll be euthanized within after the 3 days. That's another part of the conversation we need to have, is whether we really need the 3-day hold, because by law they have to hold the animals for 3 days. And in some cases, I think it's fairly obvious that that's an animal that you can euthanize rather quickly.
Then Gain's on board with that? Who's going to do the euthanizing?
Well, it's a challenge for Gain staff, and it does have a psychological and emotional toll on them. So what we're working on that also kind of requires a little bit of legislative intervention is to have our animal control officers also be certified in euthanizing pets, because right now it is up to Gain or other veterinarians or a territorial veterinarian to euthanize pets or strays. And Gain doesn't want to be on board with it, but they do understand that that's part of the process that needs to happen in order for us to really effectuate change in our community with the number of strays that are out there.
You done with strays?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the critical habitat designation. Okay. Can you kind of just explain to our viewers what exactly is NOAA proposing when you talk about critical habitat? What does this exactly mean?
Okay, so there are, let me double check, but there are 7 different species of corals that are found in the Indo-Pacific that are believed to at some point, without any intervention, eventually disappear, where we won't have them. A large part of it is climate change. Others are fishing pressures or land-based sources of pollution. So NOAA found or has this listing of coral, and they want to designate critical habitat, which are areas that are shown to be where the corals can grow. Like there's a solid substrate on the bottom, water that flows in and out. And so they want to designate, I'll share the maps with you. Some of it's kind of crazy, like the entire area around Rhoda.
I see the map. I just had it up for Guam.
The one for Guam is everywhere that's
everywhere,
not
almost.
a military base.
Yeah. So if you designate almost everywhere around the island, does that mean you can't fish, you can't swim? What exactly does that mean?
Well, that was my big question. So from what I've read so far, that's not what it means, but we're also scheduling a meeting with the guy who wrote the rule. What it means is that but then this is where it gets tricky, because what it means is that any federal projects that are going to be done in those areas now need to go through an extra layer of scrutiny and permitting before you can engage in any of that work. However, all of our projects for DAR are federally funded. And then my question is, what about if it's a federally funded land-based project and it's somehow going to impact the ocean or nearshore reefs or even just the water in those areas? Does that mean that requires an extra layer of permitting as well then? So it's not really cut and dried for us. And even our coral reef coordinator, when she read the rules, said she had more questions than answers. So today, after this, in our fisheries division, we're all meeting to discuss the proposed rule. I had everybody read through it, and we're going to come to the table and figure out what we know. And then I have a meeting right after that with representatives from the CNMI and American Samoa to discuss what we know. And then we're still working with the Coral Reef Task Force that's trying to arrange a meeting with the guy from NOAA who wrote the rule so that we can ask our questions of him. And then the first public hearing is on January 20th at 4 p.m.
20th
Guam time.
20th or I thought it said the 22nd. But.
That's the second meeting. The second meeting is January 22nd on Guam. It'll be the 21st in American Samoa.
Okay.
So January 22nd is the second meeting. The first one's on the 20th.
Chelsea, you said that this could affect federal projects. Does that include any type of military training or activity, or?
No, because here, I'd love to share this map with you. That's the only area that's not eligible for designation as critical or coral critical habitat.
You remember, though, back several years ago when critical habitat came up, I think it was for Rutidian or around that area for the birds. Do you remember that? It was years ago. That's why I was like, critical habitat. Oh, no. What does this mean?
It's, when you first hear it, and it was the presentation done for us as part of the Westpac Council meeting, it was scary because all I heard was critical habitat, and then I saw this map, and the map at that time it wasn't even in color. That this one that I'm sending you looks so much better on. It was in black and white, so you couldn't really see all of the areas, but it looked like the whole island was basically shaded.
Exactly. That's why I pulled it up. I was like, oh, we got to ask her about this.
I was like, wait, what do you mean? What does that mean for the fishers? And the lady, she couldn't answer all of the questions, so I said, well, and I asked them if they were planning on having a public hearing, and they said they had not been thinking about it, but I was scrolling through the documents that they attached for us, and I saw one section that said they have to have a public hearing if it's requested. So I said, well, we're requesting a public hearing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys are tracking this and it's on your radar. And
keep us posted.
Yeah.
Here, I'll send you this map. It's in color, and it's sure to raise your ire.
All right, Chelsa, thank you.
We're going to let you go check your dogs now.
They're like 75% Labrador Retriever and Golden Retriever, so, anyone's interested.
I like that. You're breaking it down into percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because then they're 25% booty dog.
Wow.
Thanks, Chelsa.
Thanks, Chelsa. All right.
You're welcome, guys.
Again, if you're a fisherman, sustenance, commercial, whatever, we put these apps up on our comments, and she's going to